They were monks in armor. They had taken vows of poverty, obedience, and chastity. They prayed quietly, lived together, and when necessary stood out as elite soldiers fighting in the name of God. But here's the strange part. These monk warriors became one of the richest and most powerful institutions in medieval Europe. So rich that kings borrowed from them. So powerful that popes protected them. And they were destroyed so suddenly that Friday, October 13, 1307, the famous Friday the 13th, is still the subject of conspiracy theories. But the truth is more interesting than the legends. Because the Knights Templar did not stumble into wealth by accident. They built one of Europe's first true international banking systems. And like every financial empire, they rose on trust, secrecy, and innovation. Until politics crushed them. The beginning, 1119, Jerusalem. After the First Crusade, Jerusalem fell into Christian hands. Pilgrims from Europe began flocking to the Holy Land. But the journey was dangerous. Bandits waited in ambush. If you carried gold, you became a target. That's when they stepped in. The Knights Templar were founded in 1119 as a small group of knights. Their leader was Hugues de Payens. Their mission, to protect pilgrims traveling to Jerusalem. They were given headquarters on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. That is why they were called the Templars. At first, they were truly poor. Legend even says 2 knights shared one horse. White cloak. Red cross. A modest life. But appearances were deceptive. Donations began to pour in. Nobles and kings across Europe began donating land and money to the Templars. Why? Because donating to them was good for the soul. And also considered a political investment. Soon they owned a vast network of properties stretching from France to England, from Spain to the eastern Mediterranean. The monks prayed, but they also operated vineyards, managed mills, collected agricultural revenues. Individually, they were poor. Institutionally, they managed enormous wealth. They were like a medieval corporation. Before the concept of corporations even existed. The first major financial innovation, the medieval bank check. Imagine you are a merchant traveling from Paris to Jerusalem. Could you carry a chest of gold for 3,000 kilometers? It would be almost suicidal. The Templars developed a system. 1. You deposit your money at a Templar center in your home country. 2. They give you an encrypted document. 3. When you arrive in Jerusalem, you present the document. 4. The local Templars pay you the equivalent amount. This was essentially the medieval traveler's check. Secure. Practical. Revolutionary. And people began to trust them. They became the bankers of kings. Over time, not only pilgrims, but kings began using them. John of England turned to the Templars during financial crises. Louis VII of France financed his crusade with their credit. The Templars could transfer money across borders. They were exempt from taxes. They answered only to the Pope. In other words, they were like a state within a state. But richer and more mobile. Think of them as today's, too big to regulate, financial institutions. The problem begins, becoming too powerful. The fate of every financial empire is the same. If you become too trusted, too wealthy, too independent, someone will see you as a threat. In the early 14th century, their greatest enemy emerged. Philip IV of France. His treasury was empty due to wars. He owed the Templars large sums of money. What is the most humiliating thing for a king? To be indebted to his banker. The Great Operation, Friday the 13th, 1307. On the morning of Friday, October 13, 1307, hundreds of Templars across France were arrested simultaneously. The charges were shocking. Heresy. Spitting on the cross. Worshipping the devil. Secret perverse rituals. The evidence. Weak, but sufficient for politics. Pope Clement V came under pressure. In 1312, the order was dissolved. In 1314, the last Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, was burned at the stake. Officially, they were finished. What about the treasure? Here is where the mystery begins. Many assets were transferred to other orders. But large amounts of wealth disappeared. Rumors speak of ships fleeing from the port of La Rochelle, underground vaults, hidden treasures. Perhaps exaggerated. Perhaps not. But the crucial point is this. What destroyed them was not bad accounting. It was not loss of trust. It was politics. When a king could not repay his debt, he eliminated the banker. The real lesson. The Templars changed the world not with their treasure, but with their system. Institutionalized trust. Cross-border money transfers. Brand power. A supranational financial network. But they forgot one thing. Being a creditor creates enemies. And kings do not like to remain in debt. Reflections today. Every era has its own Templars. In the 20th century, giant banks. In the 21st century, global corporations and financial networks. Institutions that move faster than states. Operate in legal gray zones. And are too big to fail. Until politics decides otherwise. Conclusion. The Templars did not become rich by miracle. They built a financial system. But they learned one of history's oldest rules. Those who control money gain power. But those who gain power are inevitably envied. And those who are envied eventually become targets. On that Friday the 13th morning, not only an order was destroyed. A financial empire was erased. History does not repeat itself exactly. But it rhymes. And the Templars' rhyme is this. Those who invent the future of money can change the world. But being the king's creditor always comes at a price.